From the moment this video starts, you need to understand one thing. What you're about to hear isn't just a boxing story. It's a warning, a reckoning, and a reminder of why you should never judge power by size or silence. So before we begin, if you believe arrogance should always be exposed and courage deserves to be rewarded, hit subscribe right now because stories like this don't just entertain. They change how you see the world. And it all began on a humid Friday night in Detroit when the arrogant heavyweight boxer Marcus "Iron Crown" Cade stepped into a rundown community gym with cameras rolling and a smirk carved into his face. A man whose undefeated record had inflated his ego beyond reason. A man who laughed at opponents, mocked referees, and treated every fight like a public execution. And that night he wasn't there to train. He was there to humiliate, because sitting quietly on a wooden bench near the ring was a 17-year-old black girl named Layla Brooks. Small, lean, her hair braided tight, her hands wrapped not in arrogance but discipline. A local amateur fighter known in her neighborhood not for trash talk, but for keeping her head down and winning bouts no one expected her to survive. And Marcus had heard about her through a viral clip where she'd outboxed an older male opponent during a charity spar. And instead of respect, he saw opportunity. Opportunity for clicks, for laughs, for dominance. So he pointed at her in front of everyone and said loud, "Enough for the microphones to catch. That's her? That's the one they hype? I've fought tougher warm-up rounds." And laughter rippled through the gym while Layla said nothing, because silence had always been her armor. And when the promoter hesitated, Marcus leaned in and said he'd spar her lightly, just enough to teach her humility. And against better judgment, and under pressure from cameras, the ring was cleared, the ropes tightened, and what was supposed to be a controlled exhibition turned into something else entirely. Because from the first bell Marcus didn't go light, he stalked her, throwing heavy jabs meant to intimidate, clipping her shoulder, her guard, whispering insults only she could hear about knowing her place, about how crowds love a story until reality shows up, and the audience began to shift uncomfortably as Layla absorbed the pressure. Moving, slipping, refusing to fall. And that's when Marcus laughed mid-round, dropped his hands, and invited her to hit him, a gesture meant to humiliate her further. But something changed in Layla's eyes. Not anger, not fear, but calculation. Because people didn't know this girl had grown up training with her late father. A former Golden Gloves contender who taught her that boxing wasn't about rage. It was about timing. And as Marcus leaned forward, mocking, Layla stepped in with a body shot so precise it sucked the air from his lungs. The sound echoing like a gunshot. Laughter died instantly. Marcus staggered back, shocked, and the gym fell silent as he realized this wasn't going to be a joke anymore, and the next 2 minutes rewrote everything, because Layla didn't brawl. She dissected, slipping punches that should have ended her night, countering with sharp combinations, frustrating Marcus until his confidence cracked. And when the bell rang, he was breathing heavy while she stood composed, eyes locked. And instead of stopping it there, Marcus, now embarrassed, demanded another round, telling the crowd he'd end it properly. And this is where the unthinkable happened. Because desperation made him reckless, and recklessness against discipline is a death sentence in the ring. Layla baited him, drew him in, and landed a perfect overhand right that dropped the heavyweight champion to one knee. A moment so surreal the referee froze, the cameras shook, and somewhere in the back of the gym a woman screamed Layla's name. And Marcus stood up fast, face red not from pain but from humiliation, swinging wildly now, trying to reclaim his image. But the crowd had turned, chanting. For the girl he came to mock, and when the final bell rang, there was no knockout, but there was something far worse for Marcus. Clarity. Because every person in that gym knew he'd lost something he couldn't get back. And the clip exploded overnight. Millions of views, headlines screaming about the teen who stood her ground. While sponsors quietly began pulling away from Marcus, and here's the twist no one saw coming. 3 weeks later, a formal investigation revealed Marcus had violated exhibition rules by fighting at near full power against a minor, resulting in a suspension, fines, and the collapse of a title defense he'd been negotiating, while Layla, who never asked for fame, was offered scholarships, training contracts, and mentorships from legends who saw in her what arrogance couldn't see. Legacy. And the final blow came months later when Marcus, now sidelined and desperate, publicly challenged Layla to a sanction bout once she turned 18, expecting her to refuse, but she didn't. She responded with one sentence that went viral: "I don't fight for ego, I fight for growth." And when the sanction match finally happened under strict rules, Layla won on points, not by brutality but by brilliance, proving that humiliation cuts deeper when it's earned. And today Marcus trains quietly out of the spotlight while Layla Brooks stands as a symbol of what happens when talent meets. Humility and courage outlasts arrogance. And if this story taught you anything, let it be this: never confuse silence for weakness, never mistake size for strength, and never forget to subscribe, because the next story might remind you just how powerful the underestimated can be.